All right, welcome here to Edge Radio here on 99.3 FM. This is Media Mothership, broadcasting here out of Nipaluna, Hobart, Tasmania. We're also streaming on edgeradio.org.au as well as YouTube and Twitch. You can just find us by searching Media Mothership, and please feel free to message us on the chat service, YouTube or Twitch, or SMS us on 04888 11707. This is Media Mothership, where we're going to be exploring how media shapes our understanding of the world around us. I'm your host, Dr. Craig, and today's topic, firstly, we're going to do a huge big thank you for B.A. Zeke, who, as many listeners to the show would know, has been a crucial part of the show's magic over the last few weeks. He's going on to bigger and better things in journalism. So a huge shout out there to B.A. Zeke. All the best, and I'm sure he'll pop on to the show as a guest in the future. Again, thank you so much for all the hard work you've done on the show. We're also going to be looking a bit at the current Edge Radio fundraiser, which has just unleashed itself today. Then dive into superheroes with a bit of discussion on some Tarantino controversy, James Gunn's call for action, a bit of a return to nostalgia, looking at Gamera, Neighbours, and Escape from New York. I'd love those three to be mashed up together. And if we've got time, we'll have a look a bit about Magic the Gathering and the latest accusations of its continued greed. Haha. So all that and more here on Media Mothership Edge Radio. Yeah, so let's look firstly at the big news, which is the fundraiser. Look, everyone loves Tassie music in here on Edge Radio. We really love it, so we have dedicated our fundraiser to Edge Radio Loves Tassie Music. It's going to be from the 18th today till the 25th of November, and we're running the I Love Tassie Music fundraiser. So all this week we're going to be raising money to keep Edge Radio on the air and supporting the talent of Tassie. If you value independent media, diversity, training opportunities for young people, and providing a platform for underrepresented voices in Tassie, donate now to edgeradio.org.au and go into the draw for some great giveaways. So there's going to be tons of stuff coming up around the corner. Keep listening, of course, to great shows here on Edge Radio. That'll be rolling out more and more amazing stuff and Tassie music. Also, if you do love Tassie music, it's a great time, especially with Christmas around the corner, to show your support by looking at some of the I Love Tassie Music t-shirts we've got on our website. You can find those at edgeradio.org.au. And we'll have a huge, fantastic concert next Friday, the 25th of November from 7 p.m. at Alta. We've got the All the Weathers, Industrial Monk, Nice House, and Woolworth's Flu Shot as the bands that will be blowing your eardrums that night. So come along and show your support to help make 2023 another great year and keep us supporting Tasmanian voices. So do go to edgeradio.org.au to donate and find out more. And that's the fundraiser here for Edge Radio that'll be going through the whole next week. So keep that in mind, people. Yeah, a bit funky. We're doing the Danzon de Passion Sting for today's episode. I hope you're all enjoying that. I do notice it's peaking red quite a bit, so I'm not quite sure how nicely loud that might be. But it does probably wake people up. So, as people know, for the last, 9 weeks, we've been exploring 5 minutes at a time of the 1959 classic film House on Haunted Hill, starring Vincent Price. Today's episode's quite a interesting one, or today's 5 minutes that we're looking at. This is minute 45 to 50. Brief wrap up of what's happening. So we had the dramatic revelation in the previous 5 minutes of the death of Mrs. Lauren, main character, our first main character death. Well, first character death on screen. Her death was off screen. We saw her corpse. So Mrs. Lauren's dead. And then Lance and Nora spent a bit of time planning what they're going to do. And at the end of that 5 minutes, the doctors invited Lance downstairs for a debrief. And the final scene is this wonderful scene, which I'm going to play you now. And I want to spend some time kind of unpacking what makes a great scene. This might not be a great scene, but it is a scene nevertheless where I think we can ask some interesting questions. So I'll play the scene. Now, what's happened is the character of Mrs. Lawrence has died tragically. No one knows why. No one was there. She's dead now. And obviously this is a haunted house, spooky haunted house, and the 6 other people in the house are being challenged to see if they can survive the night, get through the night, and then they'll get thousands of US dollars for doing that. So anyway, Mrs. Lawrence has died, and in this scene, her husband, played by Vincent Price, Frederick Lauren, is coming into the bedroom to look at her for one last time, or look at her. So we're going to be picking the scene up from that moment where Vincent Price walks in and he reacts to her. And then we have this great scene, which I want to play, between Vincent Price and another great actor, Elisha Cook Jr., who really, you've got these 2 great actors, Vincent Price and Elisha Cook Jr., who really chew the scenery, chew the scene in this one. Wonderful kind of hammy overacting. So let's listen to this great scene, House on Haunted Hill, 1959.
So beautiful. So greedy. So cold. What are you doing in here?
Wait. Don't wait.
What do you mean coming in here?
I didn't want them to take her away.
You're drunk.
They will if you don't watch her.
You're drunk. All right, out with it, Bridget. Why did you come into this room?
I'm the only one who understands.
Understands what?
Your wife isn't there anymore. She's already joined them.
Look, Bridget, I've had enough of your spook talk. Get out, you sot, and don't come back into this room again.
I do love the "I've had enough of your spook talk" scene. I think that was well delivered. Nothing like a bit of spook talk to really freak out the moment. So what we might have a look at now is talking about this as a great scene, right? And I want to go into this in terms of this little piece that is from Film Courage, YouTube site Film Courage, which gives advice, discussions for people that are wanting to do script writing. And here we have a scene, a sequence from interview with a scriptwriter, script consultant, Shannon E. Johnson, talking about how to write a great scene. So I want to listen to this, how she defines writing a great scene, and we'll go back to that scene and think, how they set that up as a great scene.
How do you write a great scene?
Ooh, I think you should look at your scenes like you look at the whole screenplay and figure out the cause and effect of what does this scene cause to happen and how is it the effect of what happened before it? Understanding that in every scene, there is a goal, just like there is in the entire screenplay. The only reason we're seeing this scene is because it's getting you closer to or further away from your goal.
So I just want to pick that point up. So what makes a great scene? It's getting something happening in the film which is getting you further to a goal or further away from a goal. So in the scene we saw with Vincent Price and Johnson and the other actor, get up in a second, we see this great scene where basically, Vincent Price, at that scene is, a lot of doubt and speculation has been placed on Mr. Lauren, Vincent Price's character, as to whether or not he is the murderer. Could he be the killer? Nora believes that Vincent Price, Mr. Lauren, is the murderer. But in this scene, as we can see, he was distressed And he was kind of heartbroken, maybe, or at least dejected by that, possibly. I don't know. It could be what I think. I mean, if every scene must have a goal, and it can either develop a character or move the story forward, what we're seeing here maybe is a bit of character development with Vincent Price's character, that he might have some regret. Up until this point, his character's been rather flippant and whimsical, and some of the most delicious dialogue's been between him and his wife, talking about how they're going to kill each other. But now that she is dead, there looks like some sadness there. Maybe regrets. I mean, he did accuse her of being cold and greedy. But nevertheless, when Watson Pritchard comes in, played by Elisha Cook Jr., there is this kind of overly dramatic, emotional moment. And what I want to play, so I want to play a bit more of that How to Write a Great Scene interview with Shannon E. Johnson, because she now goes on to talk about seeing a scene as often being a combat that can occur between two characters.
And so if you look at it like there's a goal that has to be reached so that you can get to the next thing that gets to the next thing that gets to the next thing, then you end up not having scenes that are back to just regular activity instead of intentional action. Or even considering from an actor's point of view, when they're gonna play out that scene, one of them is winning, right? Somebody's gonna win in this thing, in this scene. You know, it's kind of like it's a fight. It's a ding, ding, ding in this corner and in this corner. These characters are gonna come, and whatever it is that they're saying to each other, someone's gonna win emotionally, someone's gonna lose, someone might physically win, someone might lose. But what that means is now that emotional journey that I was on has been changed.
So it's a great point, that emotional journey. So she goes on to say, yeah, it's a kind of cause and effect.
Again, it's the cause and effect. So there might be a physical cause and effect, there might be an emotional cause and effect, or it might be both. But definitely looking at the scenes like they're little movies, right? Like, what is it setting up for me?
So I like that idea of cause and effect. So here we have this kind of, you could think about it in terms of an although moment, a however moment, a kind of nevertheless moment. Something's changed emotionally. So obviously in this scene, what's interesting is Pritchard is being choked by Lauren. So it's a very physical scene, right? There's a lot of violence. There's violence which is occurring on the screen as one of the characters is choking the other character. It's an emotional scene, and Vincent Price is really hamming it up in terms of the emotion that he's feeling with the scene, and playing opposite the kind of drunkenness of the other character, Elisha Cook Jr.'s performance being very kind of drunken, but then just weird. Emotionally, he is talking about how the ghosts have got her. Let's listen to it again with that idea in mind. If we're listening now to this scene as a fight between two boxers, actors, that are in this scene emotionally contesting each other. Who's going to come out emotionally as having furthered their arc, furthered the story going forward? If the goal of this scene is to get the story moving forward, or to get a character's arc further to being developed, what's occurring here? And one thing I'd like to throw in, is there a subversion of expectation occurring?
What are you doing in here?
Wait, don't we?
What do you mean coming in here?
I didn't want them to take her away.
Drunk.
They will if you don't watch her.
You're drunk. All right, out with it, Bridget. Why did you come into this room?
I'm the only one who understands.
Understands what?
Your wife isn't there anymore. She's already joined them.
Bridget, I've had enough of your spook talk. Get out, you sot, and don't come back into this room again.
Yeah, I don't know if... See, it's a really interesting scene, the more you look at it, in terms of Vincent Price's character, Lauren, has set this whole thing up in the haunted house to entrap his wife, and the speculation up until this point has been that he's going to kill the wife and possibly others. But now with this scene, you can see maybe things are getting away from him. Things are getting out of control. He may not be in control. And so again, it might be a nice scene for what's going to come next in this movie in terms of subverting the audience's expectation. Up until that point, all of the dialogue and some of the clues have been audience expecting Vincent Price to be the main villain. And in this scene, we're seeing him emotionally fragile, lashing out, choking the other character, threatening the other character, pushing him away. And the other characters say, ghosts have got her and so forth. So, it could be, say, maybe he's not the killer that Nora believes he is, and that the other characters are beginning to see him as. Maybe this is subversing that character. So yeah, it's a nice, delicious little scene. It could be considered. Yeah, it's possibly in this film one of the more memorable scenes in terms of the expectations that we might be seeing occurring there in minute 45 to 50 of House on Haunted Hill. Oh, that is loud, isn't it? I might turn that down a bit. So some news. Current news. Before I play the current news, I want to play a teaser, an audio teaser, to see if people can guess what this piece of news is. Yes, that's right. I'm sure people will recall this music. I guess it's reasonably memorable. It's the Marvel opening theme that you'd hear before one of their movies often plays. That's a bit of a sting there from that. The story I want to go through is one being picked up by AV Club and a couple of others talking about Quentin Tarantino. An interview with Quentin Tarantino recently on the Video Archives podcast, where he says that the current Hollywood era is tied, in his mind, for the worst in history. Right? So Tarantino's named his least favorite eras in films, right? And he said that the current era that we're in is tied for his least favorite era in film. So I guess this is no big surprise that Quentin Tarantino might not be a particularly big fan of the current state of the movie biz. The AV Club article goes on to talk about how there's been a number of cinema auteurs, like Scorsese and others, who have been vocally anti-Marvel films, particularly the superhero type of genre that's flooded many of the top films recently. And so many of them have been vocally anti that kind of Marvel filmmaking, and highly critical also of Disney's monopoly over the movie landscape in general. Tarantino says that perhaps we are in the worst era, from his point of view, in Hollywood history. Again, might not be breaking news, certainly not surprising given the type of films Tarantino does, which I really love, really enjoy. But nevertheless, they're far away from that Marvel model. So the filmmaker revealed in this episode, Video Archives podcast, and to quote him directly, he says, even though the 80s was the time that I probably saw more movies in my life than ever, at least as far as going to the movies was concerned, I do feel that 80s cinema is, along with the 50s, the worst era in Hollywood history. Right, so he says that 80s cinema and the 50s cinema was the worst era in Hollywood history. But then he shares, matched only by the current era. So I guess there's 3 eras of cinema that he considers as the worst: 80s cinema, 50s cinema, and today's cinema. So Tarantino famously before has talked about how he can't wait for the day that superhero movies loosen their chokehold on the industry, and he goes on to say that there might be a good side that those films which aren't conforming to this Marvel model of cinema making do stand out from the pack. For instance, he did praise 2 films in this current era: Top Gun: Maverick and Spielberg's West Side Story, which he both regarded as being true cinematic spectacles. He quote him, he says, it's the kind of film that he thought he wasn't going to see anymore. So yeah, that's something. It is interesting to reference the Top Gun Maverick film. I know Tarantino early in his career got some interesting discussion about a kind of a gay subtext of Top Gun that he kind of explored and discussed. There's one other bit of Quentin Tarantino news. It's getting reported on a couple of spaces, including Den of Geek, talking about Quentin Tarantino also revealing in this interview the only Marvel movie he would make. So if he had to make a Marvel movie, what would that Marvel movie be? And Den of Geek report that it turns out that he says, this was in Variety, sorry, so to Variety, in a Variety report during a promotional Q&A for Cinema Speculation, the director admitted the one Marvel property he would consider taking on is Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos. I've never read this comic. I do know about it. It was created back in '63 by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, and it's basically set during World War II with a group of soldiers, including the Nick Fury character, cigar chomping his way through Nazi-occupied Germany. So yeah, I could see that. Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos does have quite a bit of familiarity with Inglourious Bastards. So I could see a type of, given the interest around The Boys, a much more violent, R-rated approach to a Marvel property that they might allow Tarantino to do, a la The Boys. I could see possibly that occurring. It would be interesting. So again, even though Tarantino's talking about the current era being equally bad in terms of he sees the 80s and 50s as previously bad decades for cinema, as well as today's current Marvel-led cinema landscape, nevertheless, he has been interviewed and has confessed that he would make one Marvel film. Yes. Yes, that's a bit quieter. I think that works a little bit better. Let's see if people can guess what this theme song is, or at least intro soundtrack. It's a little bit less memorable. This is building up to a crescendo is the DC intro. So we just heard before the Marvel intro, which I think simply because of probably the amount of Marvel Cinematic Universe world building out there is more familiar to people. I don't know if it's particularly memorable like the Jaws sting or something, but nevertheless, it is memorable. The DC one, yeah, look, I gotta admit, I wouldn't have guessed it unless I just watched a DC film and had that title credit pop up. Anyway, this is a bit of DC news to balance out the Marvel news we just heard. The DC news is James Gunn, who's the new DC Studios co-CEO, James Gunn, as well as being a filmmaker, is turning to the fans for DC Universe film ideas. So yeah, it's been reported across a couple of websites, including this one on CBR.com. Filmmaker and DC Studios co-CEO James Gunn has asked fans for suggestions about what DC characters should get their own film at some point in the future. So of course we reported recently that DC has pushed out moved along their previous CEO, and now we have DC Studios being co-CEO'd by two figures, including James Gunn, who's a really well-known director who's done Marvel and DC films. So James Gunn's turned to his Twitter and posted the question via his account, Mastodon. And the question was, which DC characters who haven't yet been in their own film do you want to see most on the big screen? And amongst the notable DC characters mentioned by fans in response to Gunn's post, these were Nightwing, Martian Manhunter, Terry McGinnis / Batman Beyond, and Batgirl. So those are the ones that most often came up. None of these characters have headlined their own live-action film. There was going to be, of course, that Batgirl movie, but it was cancelled in August due to the Warner Brothers Discovery merger. So, yeah, interestingly, Gunn responded back to those fan requests by saying, "Thank you for all the answers," and then jokingly saying, "Not nearly enough Batmite requests." Batmite, of course, being from the comic Batman series, a kind of, kids-oriented trickster-type character, a la, kind of always reminds me of the Jetsons, I think, because when I was watching it as a kid, Batmite featured in one of the Batman cartoons I was watching. But yeah, so Batmite, possibly not. So that's a bit of DC news. Now, if you thought that audio snap was difficult to guess what it was, this next one, I doubt anyone will get, but I will say a clue will be it's a roar. It's a sound effect of a reasonably famous and probably not too famous roar. So let's see if anyone can guess what the current next bit of news is unpacking. Pleasant sound. I should get that for my mobile ringtone. That, of course, is the melodic harmony of Gamera, the 1965 to 1999 giant kaiju monster from Japan, Gamera. He rolled out on the screen shortly after Godzilla. Probably not as well known. He is a giant turtle with tusks that's able to kind of flying saucer type flying as well. It's a fascinating special effects budget they had in 65. But that, of course, is, the memorable Gamera roars. And that is there because of some interesting Gamera news. That Gamera is returning. Yeah, since 65. Gamera is going to be back. So Gamera returns in a new Netflix animated project. Netflix have announced that an animated film featuring the giant fire-breathing prehistoric turtle monster Gamera will release on its platform in 2023. So Netflix has officially announced Gamera Rebirth, the first film to star the classic Japanese monster since 2006. This is again reported on CBR.com. Not much is known yet about the upcoming anime project. The only official information being the film will be animated and will release globally on Netflix in 2023. Gamera, of course, first appeared way back in 65. Gamera, the giant monster, worth tracking down. There is one of those kind of joke comedy voiceover dubs that you can listen to of it. The giant fire-breathing prehistoric turtle monster who was mutated by exposure to nuclear radiation was created by Dai film to compete with Toho's Godzilla, of course. And of course, Gamera, very similar to Godzilla, evolved from the aggressive, destructive kaiju, giant monster, into more of a protector-type creature that kept humanity safe from extraterrestrials and other giant monsters. So it's not going to be linked to Godzilla or King Kong, but it will be interesting. Yeah, Gamera has appeared in 12 films. Not many made it into much of a Western release. Some of the later ones did. Never really created as much of a connection globally as Godzilla has. But, yeah, it would be interesting. In 2015, New York Comic-Con, Kadokawa Daiei Studios screened a full proof-of-concept Gamera film in honor of the 50th anniversary. Yeah, so there's been a little bit of things going on. Generally on Netflix, there is quite a bit of kaiju action happening. So Gamera Rebirth will be the latest animated kaiju film to come out of Netflix. Of course, the streamer has previously had 3 computer-animated Godzilla films. If you've not checked those out, they're worth watching. They're quite good. They're set far in the future from the Godzilla that we're currently experiencing from the US, the Garth Ennis productions. It's beginning the Netflix's computer animated ones, though, were Godzilla Planet of the Monsters and the two follow-ups, City on the Edge of Battle and The Planet Eater. They were good. They were good. They got mixed reviews, but interesting concept. Yeah, they were set 20,000 years after Earth. Well, humans basically left Earth to recolonize. And this is set 20,000 years after they've abandoned Earth to try and recolonize Earth again. But they've found the planet's been taken over by Godzilla. So yeah. And of course, Netflix will be streaming Skull Island, an upcoming anime-styled series to follow the shipwrecked characters as they try to escape King Kong. So yeah, there's quite a few kaiju giant monster things occurring in the upcoming future. Now, this next clip, I think, in terms of, what we're looking at here are nostalgic properties that are going to be given a second life. We've just had Gamera. Now we're going to completely change genre. And we actually talked about this property not too long ago. I want to say maybe a month or two ago. But here it is. Maybe to no one's surprise, this property is coming back.
Neighbors, everybody needs good neighbors with a little.
Yes, that's right. Neighbors is coming back. Yeah, I was, I guess I thought it wasn't going to come back because the funding had completely fallen through, and the sense was that Neighbors simply was not going to continue with the numbers it had, but that's not the case, it turns out. There's an article here on abc.net.au, ABC News, talking about, the headline is, "We Can't Wait to See You Again, Neighbours to be revived months after farewelling viewers." And I got to admit, for someone that hadn't watched Neighbours, but only caught it maybe as a teenager, when it finished, I watched the last episode or two, and it felt like closure, and now it's back, and I got to admit, it's a bit like, I don't really care, but nevertheless, it is an interesting article that talks about why it's happening. So why is Neighbours coming back after it seemed so sure that it had ended, and, brought back all of the previous, cast members, or many of the previous cast members made cameos and so forth. Anyway, it turns out that just 4 months after the series concluded its 37-year run, its production house, Fremantle, Australia, has gone now into a partnership with, not Netflix, not Disney, Amazon. That's right, it's going to be streaming the series on Prime Video on Amazon in Australia, as well as in the US and the UK. The agreement includes a new season to air in 2023. Yeah, back to back with Gamera. Gosh, busy. So there's been a lot of social media buzz going on. It turns out that, Carl Kennedy's back, and yep, so they have many of the cast that are returning to this production now, tweeting out their joyful exuberance about how it's going to go. It's interesting because the series wrapped up. They pulled almost 1.5 million viewers for their final episode of Neighbours in July. Of course, that starred Kylie Minogue, Jason Donovan, Guy Pearce, all returning to say goodbye to Ramsay Street. So it went out in a bang. It's one of these things of like, it's challenging for a show to end and to wrap it all up nicely. Many people thought that they did wrap it up nicely, but gosh, they're back again. So production of the new series is slated for early next year, with a world premiere to follow in the second half of the year. They do the Beverly McCarvey from Paramount Australia and New Zealand quoted here as saying, "While we loved the season finale earlier this year and appreciated the incredible support from the cast, crew, and fans, we continued to hold a small glimmer of hope that one day it would be possible to resume the series." And there we go, and it has been. So yeah, I guess they've had to juggle that idea that people felt the whole series concluded well, and now they're going to bring back. So the article's interesting, worth reading, because it also talks to these UK visitors. Of course, the UK in Neighbours history is considered this key demographic, right? I mean, the story goes, Neighbours, of course, being popular in Australia, but then finding this huge fandom in the UK, and one of these cases of Australian property doing incredibly well overseas, specifically the UK. So the ABC article interviewed these two former UK residents, asking them what they thought. And they were saying how very excited they were. And one of them said their dream, after they migrated from UK to Melbourne, was to become an extra in Neighbours. And now that might happen. So, yeah, I guess they're trying to go for a weird local angle there. There you go. Neighbours is back. Neighbours is back. The last nostalgic media property I want to go through is this one. I'll again play a little snippet of its theme. This is from a movie from the 1980s. Challenging to get. Although the director that made this film recently... the Halloween celebrations were just around the month or so ago. That might be a bit of a teaser as to what this theme is. That's right, it's Escape from New York theme. And there's a bit of news that the Escape from New York is going to be coming back. Very exciting. Very interesting that this might be occurring. That, yeah, it's an intriguing little moment that we might have both Gamera, Neighbours, and Escape from New York occurring just around the corner, it seems. So in this reported by Giant Freaking Robot, Kurt Russell's returning for Escape from New York sequel from Scream directors. So it's being reported that Kurt Russell's going to be returning as Snake Plissken in a reboot from the Radio Silence filmmaking collective. So of course, Kurt Russell had many roles, but Snake Plissken, many people consider as being one of his kind of classic roles. It's certainly one of the ones that broke him into that new mold of being an action hero away from the previous Disney properties he'd been in as a kid and a teenager. So it was a real, I guess, career-making role, being Snake Plissken in John Carpenter's Escape from New York. It was released back in 1981, directed by John Carpenter. And it's a really grim, violent science fiction suspense film in this, kind of apocalyptic wasteland of New York, where Kurt Russell's playing this kind of gritty anti-hero that has to save the U.S. president. Very memorable cult film, well worth watching if you've not seen it. Classic Carpenter film. It did have a sequel, Escape from LA. It was mixed reviews. So it'll be interesting to see where they take this film. There's been some speculation before about where the Escape from franchise could go, or sequel could go. And given the last film had Snake Plissken activating an anti-technology doomsday device, some speculation is that might be Escape from Earth. Has been a previous concept, that Snake Plissken will be fleeing the planet Earth. Maybe. A little bit of fan theory also got squashed recently, talking about whether or not John Carpenter's 2001 science fiction film Ghost of Mars was actually originally meant to be an escape from ... movie. That was meant to be Escape from Mars, with Kurt Russell and Snake Plissken in it. Turned out, no, that fan theory is wrong. Sandy King Carpenter, who is the kind of lifelong producer and spouse of John Carpenter, has said, flat out no. So there you go. There was never a link. It was never connected. Sad but true. Sad but true. Let's play a quick vox pop. This is again from a quick vox pop with the cosplayers from TASPop. It's a great pleasure to be in front of such an immensely impressive cosplayer with fantastic boots. If you can tell me your name and the cosplay first.
Yep, so my name is Moss. I am cosplaying Mikan from Danganronpa.
Mikan from
Danganronpa. Yeah.
Is that a manga, anime, video game?
It's a video game. It's a visual novel.
And the thing that has struck me most about the cosplay is those incredible boots. Can you tell me a bit about how those boots work?
So they are platforms, so they're not as hard to walk in as I thought they would be. They're actually pretty okay to walk in. Don't really hurt or anything. They're pretty cushiony as well, yeah.
Because it looks like that platform comes up, maybe 10 or 20 centimeters?
About that, yeah. I'm not sure what it is in inches. I'm not sure about the height at all. But, no, they're not too bad to walk in, though.
And then there's, maybe 15 little clasp straps on it?
Yeah. It is a bit much, though. They do kind of rub together, it's fine, but it's alright.
Yeah, because for the unwary, I guess you'll pick up a costume and then you'll road test it. So road testing this costume, it's gone pretty smoothly so far?
Yeah. Oh, it's going smoothly. My wig sort of half fell off, so I had to fix that. That's fine.
I think there's always got to be a bit of a wardrobe malfunction. You've got to live on the edge to see.
Yeah.
So I've asked this question of everyone. What's the first pop culture that comes to your head right now?
Well, looking around at everyone, definitely anime. But
It mainly seems anime. What other pop cultures have you seen today?
I've seen probably everything under the sun, to be honest. I've seen so many different things, and everyone looks so amazing.
Anything that surprised you?
Not necessarily. I was surprised by some of the cosplays, though. Like, the effort that goes into that. It's incredible.
Talking of looking adorable, you look fantastic. If you could give me your name and your cosplay.
Okay, hi, my name is Stacey Highland, and I'm cosplaying as Junko Inoshima from Danganronpa. So, we're like partner characters.
So what's the narrative? Are you guys best friends? Are you villains together?
So, Junko's like the head kind of mastermind of the evil plot to like hurt a bunch of people, and she kind of brainwashes Mikan, so Mikan's like her little servant type thing. I don't know. What's your take on that?
No, that's pretty accurate. That's pretty spot on.
So do you guys go to school together, work together?
Yeah, work together at McDonald's.
All right, yeah, ground zero for Tassie pop culture. What is Tassie pop culture? That's another thing I've been asking. With your position in McDonald's, you see a lot of characters, people, real people, fictional people come by. What do you think Tassie pop culture is? Is there something about Tassie at the moment apart from black puffer jackets that are pop culture?
Oh, honestly, hoodies. Hoodies. Yeah.
Hoodies, yeah. Do you agree?
Yeah, I would say hoodies. You get a lot of people with just hoodies on. Yep.
So has there been anything that surprised you today at the festival here?
I'm surprised, thankfully, by how many people there were, because I guess when the first event I saw was TASPop North last year, which was a bit smaller because of COVID, and so when I got here and they were like, there's too many people, I was like, wow! So that's really good to see.
So are you locally Hobart based, or have you come down from Launceston?
We're both from Launceston, yeah.
So any bigger plans here in Hobart while you're here?
No, it's pretty much just TASPop.
Yeah. TASPop
Going through the market, but that's... I felt like that was bound to happen eventually, but...
It's right there. Yeah. We especially went through the market during the cosplay parade, and all of the shoppers were having a bit of a look at us.
What was their reaction to seeing cosplayers come through?
There's a lot of random people taking photos, so at first I was like, oh, alright. It sort of grew on me a little. I was like, I kind of like the attention. It's kind of alright.
Because have you ever been able to wear cosplay out in public like this before?
No, this is the first time I've done it.
Right.
I've worn it before, but not in Tassie. Yeah, so in WA, but not in Tasmania before. So it's interesting to kind of gauge the level of cosplay acceptance in Tasmania, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, everything's been nice, warm, and accepting here so far. And the gender breakdown's been really a lot of fantastic girl power, I think. A lot of, if I think about the number of people cosplaying and the demographic breakdown, I think it represents a kind of creative girl power goes going. Is that just my weird mind to you, or?
No, that makes sense.
I think so. And it's also, I've noticed, it seems to be a safe environment for like people of different gender expressions or like abilities. So I've seen people that say have pins which are like representing their ability and any of their special needs, and I think that's good that we have a space where people feel that they can express any needs and they can be met.
That is excellent. If I could have asked for a better encapsulation of today's festival, I think you've nailed it on the head. So thanks very much for being involved. Any final thoughts?
It's a bit cold. It's a bit cold.
Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
All right, back-to-back stings. You gotta like that. There's a bit of a bonus there. Friday, the 18th of November at 5:47 p.m. Well, thanks for listening. This has been Dr. Craig from Media Mothership on Edge Radio for another week. Show notes are available on the episode description via YouTube, Twitch, or your podcast supplier when the podcaster goes up in a few days. Next week, we'll explore the next 5 minutes of House on Haunted Hill. Do check out that How to Write a Great Scene by Shannon E. Johnson clip. It goes for another 3 minutes, so it's worth listening to her views on how to write a great scene. And we'll explore other scenes by her criteria of looking at them as a bit of a battle between the two characters, or characters that are in the scene, to see which ones are best developing the story forward, or the goal forward, or the character development forward. What is actually going on in that moment? Are we around the corner for some more subversion of expectation? Was the subversion of expectation I called out in that scene correct? Is Vincent Price's character, Frederick Lauren, actually not the villain of the film now? Was that a pivotal key scene in this film? Maybe. So look, keep listening to Edge Radio. Around the corner, we've got Adrian's great show, You Can't Sit Down. But please donate to Edge Radio during this week of the fundraiser and pick up some great merch. You can find out more information as well as that merch by going to edgeradio.org.au. And of course, you can find out more about Media Mothership by checking us out on Facebook, as well as edgeradio.org.au. So keep listening here to Edge Radio. Some great tunes coming up around the corner from Adrian with You Can't Sit Down.